Hello friends, and welcome to today's video, where we'll be talking a little bit about the equipment that I carried out on the Arizona Trail. I know that many of you who are planning a spring hike this year got COVIDed out of that, and I feel so bad for you guys. I couldn't even imagine, especially those of you that got started. It's so hard getting started on something that's that epic and then having to set it down for societal and, just to keep everyone safe. It's tough, man. So for those of you that are going to be doing a fall hike instead of a spring hike, the gear is pretty similar. There are a couple considerations you need to think about with hiking in the fall instead of the spring. First of all, there's a lot less water that's naturally available, and it's highly dependent on the monsoons that we have. So we'll know a little bit more about how the water is going to look this fall come around July and August. That's usually when a lot of that starts happening down here. I'm going to be covering, over the next couple of videos these next few weeks, I'm going to be talking about the gear I carried and how to kind of breaking it down by the usual thru-hiker categories. So today we're going to be talking about the big three plus my sleeping pad. So first things first, the thing that carries it all, I carried the Osprey Exos 58 backpack on my thru-hike. I really loved it, and you can't beat Osprey's guarantee. The almighty guarantee. If it gets torn up or broken, you can see I haven't set mine in yet. Still have some duct tape from my hike across the desert. But there was plenty of room in this thing to carry all the water that I needed and all the gear that I needed for my hike. You need to pack a little bit warmer as well for the fall because it can start to get pretty cold on the North Rim. So you need a little bit of extra room for that. A couple of things that I didn't like as much about the pack though. There isn't a spot for any sort of snacks or anything in the hip belt. And I actually had some really awful chafing on my hip from the hip belt that it made it kind of tough and kind of painful to get some of the big miles in. That was around 600 miles in for me. So my body was pretty adjusted to the pack and everything, and then that started to show up. Maybe that's just an issue with me. Something to consider. Be comfortable with your pack before you go out so you kind of know what to anticipate. Another thing about the pack, it's only rated to carry around 40 pounds. So when I really had to camel up and carry a lot of water, that obviously adds a lot of weight. So like in the sections south of the Gila, between the Gila and Oracle, I had to carry, I think it was 2.5 gallons. I said 8 gallons in one of my videos, and that was wrong. My maximum capacity out there was 11 liters, and I only filled up to that a couple of times. But when you put that much weight in this pack, at least with how I was packing it all up, I was putting a MSR 6-liter water bladder in there, and it kind of was Frankensteined together. But when I would fill up that water bag all the way, because it's not one of the Osprey water bags that have the solid back to them, it kind of bulged out this part of the pack right in here, and these wires would start to get a little displaced. So if there was a lot of weight in here, I would actually be getting like jabbed in the back by one of those bars until I drank through some of that water that was, ballooning out. Whereas the Osprey water bladders have a solid backing to it, and then it bulges out one way. That would work a lot better with this system. And I ended up switching to a 3-liter Osprey water bag close to the end. I think just before I did the last 80 miles after my 2-month break due to winter storms and all that sort of business. So that covers a bit about the pack. I actually found this one off of the CDT, Continental Divide Trail gear research by, I believe it's the Outbound Collective. I'm going to leave a link for you guys down in the description to check out that. They survey the different hikers that have been successful out there and not successful, and they put together all like the favorite equipment for the year and all of that sort of data. It's really, really helpful to point you in the right direction for what other ultralight users are utilizing out there. So at least gives you a starting point, and then you can go from there with your specific needs and wants and all of that. Just to fill in the last little gap about the Osprey, it also weighs about 2 to 3 pounds empty, which is actually a lot better than a lot of external frame packs, which is what I carried before I got this thing. So this was a total game changer for me from what I was used to. Moving on, the tent I carried out there is the Big Agnes Copper Spur HV UL2. I carried a 2-person tent for extra room, and I hoped that some people would come out and hike with me. Some of my friends from home and stuff like that, being I live in Arizona. That didn't really happen. Down in the Grand Canyon, my mom and I shared this just so we didn't have to carry 2 tents and kill both of our backs. So it came in handy for that, and it was nice having the extra space where I could take all the smellables out of my backpack and then still keep it all, in the tent with me in a way. Not the smellables, I'd hang those up. You guys already heard the bear story, I am sure. If not, click the link up there. So yeah, and it's a double wall tent. If I go and do another long distance hike, I might consider picking up one of the single walled tents. But this thing is pretty much just screen and a floor with a rain fly. So the few nights that I didn't have the rain fly over top, especially up close, like between the Grand Canyon and Flagstaff, there was one night my Garmin said it was going to be like 40 degrees, and it ended up being like 25 degrees. And I didn't have the top on the tent because I was in this huge open field in the Babbitt Ranch section, for those of you who are familiar. And that night I woke up at like 2 in the morning, condensation all over my sleeping bag, and I was freezing cold. And there wasn't any trees around, so I couldn't get sticks to build a fire, to dry stuff out and warm up or anything. It was one of the most brutal nights of my camping career. But aside from that, a single walled tent would definitely save you some weight, and using your hiking poles instead of like the poles that are in a self-standing structure like this, there are definitely pros and cons for both, and I would definitely be open to trying something different. This tent definitely served me really well though, and I'd recommend it. I know it's a little bit outdated now, and there's definitely other options out there though, but that's what I carried. That's what worked for me, and I used the footprint as well. That's really important in Arizona because there are so many little pokey things everywhere. And on that note, I carried a inflatable air mattress, the Thermarest Neo Air X Lite, I believe is the one that I was carrying. And around the Superstitions, which is around mile 500-ish of the Arizona Trail, I ended up getting a hole in the bottom of it, even though I was using the footprint and all that sort of stuff. So it's really important, if you're using an inflatable pad, to be vigilant on where you set your stuff up, if there's pokey stuff underneath your tent, all of that, because Arizona has some teeth, guys. Whether that's pointy rocks, pointy sticks, or just cactus needles, they're out there, and you got to protect this or else you're really going to lose a lot of sleep. This thing actually still has a tiny pinhole somewhere in it that I can't find and patch. So that's definitely a project for me, but before that happened, this air mattress was awesome. It is thick, it is light, and I could sleep super well on it. Only real con I had was when I'd roll around on it, it would like crinkle a lot. So if you're camping in a whole group, your friends might really hate you because every time you roll over, it's gonna be. One of the thru-hikers that I met out there, he hiked the Te Aurora the year prior. He said that after you sleep on one of those things for 1,000 miles or so, it starts to get a little more quiet. I haven't experienced that yet, and I had to switch this out for a different air mattress that didn't have a hole in it right after the Superstitions. So just some food for thought. I saw a lot of people out there with the foam pads, the really thin ones, like the Z-Lite, I believe they're called. And those are, I've never used them. They're a lot lighter, and obviously you can't pop them, so maybe that's a better move for some people. But being I'm a side sleeper, I couldn't imagine getting comfortable on one of those, especially if the ground has any sort of unevenness to it. So that was sort of a personal call that I made for my equipment. But there are plenty of people that carried both, just inflatable or just the closed cell foam pads. So a couple things to consider there for you. this thing definitely worked for me until it popped. Lastly then, this is a dry bag compression sack thing, and this has my sleeping bag in it. And it also has enough room for any sort of extra clothes that I'd need to keep dry during a rainstorm or something like that. And I bought that keeping that in mind. So the sleeping bag that I used, I actually switched this out right around Flagstaff. I started with a Climate KSB 20-degree bag, and after that night that I was describing where I woke up absolutely frigid, and there were a lot of nights that were right around the 20-30 degree range when I was up on the North Rim, that 20-degree bag really wasn't enough. And maybe it's because it was a couple years old, maybe because Climate's a little bit more of a budget company. Nothing against them, it's just that bag really was not working for me. So I did some research and found the REI Igneo 17-degree bag. It saved me, I think, around a half a pound in weight, and it was significantly warmer. I immediately noticed the difference when I did that switch in Flagstaff, and I would never go back. I love this bag. It is so warm and comfortable, and it has the same sort of baffles that come around your chest as the KSB 20 that keep that cold air from pushing down into the bag. It squishes up really small. It's a lot lighter weight. It's a lot warmer. And REI, you know, they're a good company. They give a lot back to nature, so I felt really good supporting them. Yeah, that's pretty much it for the big 3 plus the sleeping pad. If you guys have any questions on my other gear, please leave me those comments down below, or direct message me over at trailtime.jake on Instagram, and I'll try to answer as many of those questions as I can as they are appropriate with the videos I create. So over the next couple weeks, we're going to keep going over gear. I think the next one I'm going to make is going to be more about the clothing I wore and what worked, what didn't, same sort of thing like this. So if these sort of videos are interesting for you, please hit that subscribe button so you're around for the next video, and hit that like button. It helps me out a bunch. And please do comment. I love responding to your guys' questions and helping out in any way I can. So as you plan your adventure, please do reach out. The Arizona Trail, hiking it in the fall, was a unforgettable experience. Seeing the fall colors change and experiencing it, you know, not in the season of the wildflowers and all that. I know the spring is so beautiful and there's so much more water and it seems like a much easier time out there. But there are distinct beauties that come with the fall as well, so don't discount that. I wish you all the best of luck on your journeys, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. Take it easy.